Morning, chillins. Mr. Bruce here. Today's book is called A Surprise Visitor. It's about a bunny. But before we start, eyes watching, ears listening, voices quiet, body calm. This is Edgar Small. He's a little bunny. He sat down to write a letter to his brother, but he could not think of anything interesting to say. He started, "Dear George, it's rather windy today." He said, "No, that's not good." And he threw the paper out. Just then he noticed a round object that had fallen into the shrubbery right outside his window. What's that look like to you? Like an egg. He didn't see it slide off the roof and roll down the ivy until it stopped right at his front door. Now that's unusual. He went to investigate. A single knock at the door. Who could it be? When he opened the door, the object rolled right to his feet. "Hello, little roundish thing. Where did you come from?" "I think I've seen your rounders just before. I know, the crusty domes. They're children all sort of round like you. How did you manage to get so far from your house?" Edgar Small put on his jacket and bundled up the roundish thing, and off he went to take it safely home. It wasn't far from the river's edge when his old friend, Mr. Crusty Dome, was busy drawing his paintings. That's where he went to draw paintings. Look at him. He's a turtle. That's why they thought it was round. "Mr. Crusty Dome," he called out. "You must have been so worried, but it's all right now. Here, your little one is safe and sound." Mr. Crusty Dome wrinkled his face and became more wrinkled as he spoke. "I beg your pardon, Mr. Small, but my children have all grown up and moved out long ago." "Oh, I thought this roundish thing could be one of yours." "Oh, I'm quite sure he's not one of mine, but don't worry, I'll help you locate the mother." "Someone will be willing to take this child in, especially if we spruce him up and give him an attractive new color." "What?" Well, he decided on his favorite color, and when he had finished, they both agreed it was a great improvement. Look, he painted it yellow, like gold. As the paint dried, he tried to think of someone who knew a lot about children. "Ah, Mrs. Twitch, there's a perfect mother for your child. We're not far from the meadow. Let's go ask Mrs. Twitch." Well, Mrs. Twitch was a bunny mother. When they arrived and saw many of the little Twitch children playing in the meadow, Edgar Small felt, "Surely I've come to the right place." He introduced the roundish thing, and soon they were all playing together and getting along nicely. Edgar Small and Mr. Crusty Dome were well pleased. Everybody loved the little yellow egg. When Mrs. Twitch appeared, they hurried over to speak to her. "Good afternoon. Mr. Small and I were taking a walk, and we've brought along a roundish friend who happens to need a mother." Mrs. Twitch twitched and said, "Just look at how well he gets on with your little ones." "He's remarkably quiet," Edgar Small said. "He's no trouble." "Well, he does seem like a sweet baby," she said, "but I really don't have any room anymore. We should find someone who actually is in need of a child, and of course something must be done about his face to make him look a little more appealing." "And what could you do? Make a face on an egg? How would you do that?" Well, she put him up in the high chair and got right to work on it with a crayon. "Now have a look at this little darling. Much better, don't you think?" Mrs. Twitch's face lit up with an idea. "My friends, Mr. and Mrs. Cribble, won't be able to resist this sweet face, and they'll be so grateful for him. They have no children at all." She put the older children in charge of the household for a little while so she could lead the way to the Chibbles' home in the forest. Look at that face. When they reached the bottom of a very tall tree, Edgar Small was surprised to see Mrs. Twitch stop and point upwards. He doubted that she or Mr. Crusty Dome, who was an experienced climber, but he was pleased that they were willing to take on the challenge for the sake of the roundish thing. Up they went, and they don't really climb a lot of trees, bunnies and turtles, but they went up there anyway to help because they wanted to help the little egg. When at last they reached the home of Mr. and Mrs. Chibble, they were very glad to be offered refreshments. That means tea. My dear friend Mrs. Twitch, said Mrs. Chibble, how marvelous that you and your friends were able to come and surprise us today. How are your little ones? Wise of you not to bring them along. This house is obviously no place for a child. It's so high up. But we have, in fact, brought along this very well-behaved, and if I may say, very handsome child, with a blue smile on his face. Oh dear, said Mrs. Chibble. We're trying to find a family for him, said Mr. Crusty Dome. Egad, said Mr. Chibble. Our neighbor, 2 branches up, seems very lonely lately, he said. The roundish thing might be just what she needs for company. Let's go bring him to her. Just as soon as we fix him up a little, said Mr. Chibble. We wanted to make a good impression. Edgar Small and the 2 children carried the roundish thing into the kitchen where they tried all sorts of things to dress him up. Finally, they were satisfied. The child just needed a tail. That's all, said Mr. Chibble. They were quite relieved and hurried up to introduce him to the neighbor, Mr. Fleetle. Look, now they put a scarf on him and think he has a tail. It's just an egg. When they arrived, they found in a very sad state, circling around her nest, weeping and weeping. We've brought you something to cheer you up, Mrs. Fleetle. Just look at this bushy-tailed nipper, said Mr. Cheeble. What a lovely smile he has. And look, he's as yellow as a buttercup. Won't that make you happy? At that moment, she was interrupted by a crackling sound. A tiny head appeared, and a voice said, Mama! 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 The egg opened up. It's Oliver, sang out Mr. Fleetle joyfully. You see, he's even more adorable on the inside. How can I thank you all for bringing my precious child back to me? There's no need, madam, said Edgar Small. My friends and I are delighted to see the little one safely home with you. But Mrs. Fleetle said, Oh, you must stay for dinner. There she is with the new little egg. After a lovely, lovely evening, Mrs. Fleetle helped her new friends get safely back down on the ground. Many thank yous and goodbyes were said before everyone cheerfully headed home. As Edgar Small stepped to the doorway of his own warm and cozy house, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He hurried to his desk and began to write, Dear George, today I had a surprise visitor, and that's how he started his letter. The end. Well, that turned out good for everybody. And here's what I wanted to go over here. Here's a picture of all Mrs. Twitch's children. They're dancing and playing in different things. Some are on a seesaw, some are playing, chasing butterflies, some are just looking up at mommy. So which one is your favorite child? Take your time. Okay. All right. Now, today was our 100th book that we've recorded together. Thanks all for watching. I'll be back to see you tomorrow. And remember, be good to your folks and wash your hands. Bye-bye.